Hi, I'm Evan Schuler.
And I'm Gabino Rairez.
We're reporters for the Chronicle at CLC, and recently had the opportunity to meet television producer Dan Tapster.
Dan Tapster has worked on projects such as Our Planet, Mythbusters, and most recently, Life on Our Planet.
The following is an interview we conducted with Tapster about the making of Life on Our Planet and his career as a whole. What first inspired you to pursue a career in natural history filmmaking?
I'd always wanted to get into natural history ever since I was a kid, but I kind of assumed it was a job that was impossible. Who does that for a living? So I kind of ignored it. I felt it was the same as wanting to be an astronaut. It's pointless. Then when I was about 14, I realized that the BBC Natural History Unit in the UK was where the majority of natural history was done. So I applied to them at 14 to ask for work experience. They said, you can't do work experience till you're 18. So I applied for them when I was 18. They said, you now can't do work experience until you're 21 and have a degree in biology. So I then went and got a degree in biology, applied for them again when I was 21, and they said, oh, we're full. So I then went to become a tour guide in the rainforest in South America. And when I did that, I happened to guide quite a few film crews. And they then put me in touch with the right people and managed to get the job. But yeah, it was something I'd always wanted to do.
What's a part of your job that people would be surprised to learn about?
People always seem surprised at how long everything takes. So, you know, on average, I would say for a 5-minute sequence about some animal and its behavior, we're usually in the field for about 4 weeks. And that is every single day from 5 in the morning till 10 at night. It's hard work. But to capture those sort of unique moments, particularly now, because so much natural history has been done that you have to go that extra mile to make sure that you get something different. So I think it's the time it takes that people are surprised about.
Do you think natural history storytelling has changed in the era of streaming and social media?
Oh, definitely. In a lot of ways, actually, mostly for the better. I think in the kind of old days, when you made a natural history film, it was really just a collection of sequences joined together by what I call the David Attenborough magic. So he's such an amazing storyteller that he links sequences in a way that you go with as the audience. But actually, if you unpick them from 30 years ago, what he's actually saying is, meanwhile, somewhere else, a different animal is doing something different. But the way he says it makes you think, oh yeah, I totally get that, seamless. Now, there's much more pressure on really telling stories in a much, much better way, having a much stronger narrative. And streamers have really helped that, actually. You know, I've done a lot of stuff for Netflix, and they're really keen on making sure that every film, for instance, ends in a cliffhanger that drives to the next episode. And so I think that has really helped. Social media is challenging because I think at times social media content is too short to really get into the kind of meat on the bones of the story. But equally, I think it's taught us a lot about how to grab your audience really quickly and not let them go. So all new media and evolutions of how people are watching TV or films is really useful.
What's the most unforgettable moment you've had while filming in the field?
The great thing about the job is crazy stuff happens all the time. So I've been chased by bears, bitten by piranhas, had to hide from sharks. I was once on an ice shelf that broke free and started drifting into the Arctic Ocean. I've had people slightly fall into volcanoes. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. In a very safe way, I should say. Safety is our number one priority, but yeah, it's unpredictable. That's part of the fun.
That's what happens with these on-location shoots, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest creative or technical issues you had filming?
So one of the series that I've recently worked on was a series called Life on Our Planet, which is on Netflix, and it's an 8-part series telling the entire story of life, from its beginnings in the primordial soup 4 billion years ago through to today. And that was difficult for a number of reasons. Firstly, the story is so massive, but secondly, we had to bring back to life creatures from the past using VFX. And we wanted to do that in a way that seamlessly sat with regular natural history stuff. And that was really, really difficult because no one had done that before. So combining VFX with natural history is tough.
How do you compromise scientific accuracy and then VFX?
Well, we tried not to compromise that, which is part of the reason why it was so difficult. So on that particular series, we worked with about 150 paleontologists across the series, making sure that every animal we created was accurate in terms of size, shape, color, movement, gait, behavior. But that said, it was kind of impossible because the world of paleontology, in the world of paleontology, there's no right or wrong. There's just a spectrum of opinions. So, which is a polite way of saying, I suppose, that paleontologists disagree with each other about everything. And so the idea that we could bring back a creature and have everyone look at it and say, you nailed it, is like impossible, totally impossible. And so we always strive for scientific accuracy, but we knew that some of the decisions we made would only be seen as accurate by this community of scientists, whereas this community of scientists wouldn't like it. But we tried.
What's it like for you adapting from being like a guide on other BBC shoots to like working with like Mythbusters? Like, what's that transition look like?
So that's a good question. So I worked as a tour guide in Peru, guided film crews. They gave me enough contacts to then when I went back to the UK, I got a regular TV job. So I was a researcher, that took me into an AP and a producer. So it had a kind of sort of standard training through career development thing. And then I joined Mythbusters, and that was totally different from natural history. But there were two things that it had that I brought to the table with it. Number one was storytelling, that it's really got really clear storytelling. You always know exactly what's happening. But also image quality. One of the most important things in natural history is that your images have to always be outstanding. And as weird as that sounds, I tried to take that to Mythbusters. So you think when we're covering some sort of explosion, there are usually like 10 cameras on that, at least one high-speed camera to really like celebrate the image quality. So although they seem totally different, in the Venn diagram of natural history and Mythbusters, there's a surprisingly big intersection.
Right now, what advice would you give to like students of COC wanting to pursue a career in producing, directing, filming?
TV and film is a hard industry to crack, particularly right now. Like it's going through a little bit of a recession, certainly factual documentary stuff or factual entertainment. What the industry needs is people who are passionate about it. So if you really, really want to do it, then don't take no for an answer. So to get a job in the industry, you have to be super persistent. You have to relentlessly hassle people for jobs and not be embarrassed about it. And that's totally fine. We've all done it. We've all done it. So when people now do it to me, I'm fine with it because I used to do it to people. But I think the other thing is to arm yourself with as many skills as you can. So I was saying that post-guiding, I got my job as a researcher. And I got that because I had a degree in biology. And what guiding actually taught me was what people are interested in. Because I've got paying tourists who have paid a lot of money to go to these parts of South America. And if you don't excite them, then they're going to be disappointed. And so it really taught me the power of what the audience finds enjoyable. But those two skills today wouldn't be enough. So today I would also have to be scuba qualified. I'd have to be able to fly a drone. I'd have to be able to know how to use Unreal Engine. I'd have to be able to edit. I'd have to be able to produce pitch decks on Canva, all of that sort of stuff. So my other advice to people is look way beyond what your qualification is and turn yourself into someone who is employable, because you have all of these other skills, secret skills, like flying drone, like speaking another language, like just being well traveled, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, be relentless, but make yourself someone who it's impossible to say no to.
Stand out.
Yeah,
Okay.
stand out, exactly.
What's a story you've always wanted to tell that you haven't yet?
That's a good question. One of the things I like about natural history and factual is there are so many stories that are untold as of now. And in fact, one of the things I've tried to do throughout my career is not rely on the low-hanging fruit. You know, there are a lot of people who might just think, it's been 10 years since anyone made a show about Africa. Let's make a show about Africa. And I've always tried to make sure that I'm working on series that are doing things that no one has done before. But because of that, they're hard to get up and hard to develop.
What's that process look like for you, like vetting a story to like someone like Netflix? Is it easier with the experience you have, or is it still complicated?
It's still complicated. I mean, I would say both of your statements are true. It's easier to do now that I've been in the industry as long as I have, and I have the contacts and the sort of proven track record, I suppose, but it's still hard. I mean, I think Life on Our Planet, we first pitched to Netflix in 2015, and they kind of liked it, but they wanted a bit more background research done. So we employed 2 geologists and paleontologists who worked in the basement of our building for a year and a half, doing the entire background research. That got turned into pitch decks and sizzles. And that I think Netflix first saw our pitch deck and sizzle in 2017, and the show was commissioned about 18 months later. So things take a long time.
What's a message you want to pass on to like the next generation of storytellers?
I think it's really important to try and make films that matter, films that do more than just entertain people. So for the next generation of filmmakers, I would really ask them to try and keep that trend. So Mythbusters is a good example that in the background, it was trying to inspire people to realize that science is cool and important and a career choice pathway for people. Life on Our Planet has been described as the Trojan horse of conservation films, because we don't put conservation front and center, but when you get to the end of episode 8, you realize, the whole thing was actually about conservation. We've seen all of these mass extinctions that are now being repeated right now. And so I would urge up and coming filmmakers to find something they're passionate about and make something that's more than just the film.
Personal question. What's your opinion of what they're doing over at Colossal, bringing back the dire wolf? What did you think when you saw that?
I worried about it for 2 reasons. Scientifically, I worry about it because it's kind of bullshit. You know, they're not bringing back the dire wolf. They are gene editing modern canines so that they look like a dire wolf. So A, it's kind of BS. Mm-hmm. If they were like bringing back a woolly mammoth from frozen DNA, great, I'm all for that. But the other thing I worry about is the ethics of it, that I fear that de-extinction will be a solution to extinction. So we don't have to worry about the stuff we're doing right now, because in 100 years' time, we'll just bring it all back. Like the northern white rhino, I think there's 1 female left. I'm worried that it will be seen as a solution to extinction, that we can just let all of these things go extinct, because in 100 years, we'll be able to bring it back to life. So that I think is the big challenge about it.
All right.
But if someone does make a Jurassic Park, then I definitely want to go.
Okay. That's all the questions we have. Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant.